Growing up, I loved the Walking Dead show on AMC. Being huge into zombies and being 12, this was right up my alley. And I desperately wanted a game adaptation of this world, something I could fully explore, and I would kinda get that. I know there was those Telltale games, but as a kid, I never really played them and really appreciated them for the masterpieces that they are. No, I wanted to literally play the show, and in 2013, we would get The Walking Dead Survival Instinct. What's up, Danksters? Thanks for tuning into a brand new video, and welcome back to another episode of Zombie Games Are Cool, the series where I go through all the childhood zombie games I play and sit down and review them for you today. And the game we're taking a look at is no exception. So released on March 19th, 2013 by Terminal Reality, The Walking Dead Survival Instinct would grace our Xbox 360, PS3s, and Wii U's? I'm gonna have to check that out. And when this game was brand new, I was all over it. I had a lot more patience back in the day, and yes, I also did have the PS3 version. However, for today, for the sake of recording purposes, we will be taking a look at the Xbox 360 version, and that is the version we have for this video. There's no real differences between the two, it's just easier to record on 360 for me. Now, the placement for the story is very interesting because this game is actually a prequel to the show. You play in the perspective of Daryl, and the whole story is just about how these two Dixon boys made it to Atlanta. And now it makes a lot of sense why you would play as Daryl. I mean, he was the most popular character on the show, and I think that's still true to this day now that he has his own. So fleshing out Daryl's backstory was a really smart move on the developers' parts. So when the game starts up, you actually start as Daryl and Merle's father in a quick intro stage of sorts. It's just here to get you familiar with the controls and all. Unfortunately, during this part, we get overrun, causing Daryl and his uncle to have to put down his father.
Oh, Dad, no! We could...
Daryl, he's too busted up.
Nothing can be done now except ease his suffering. Sorry, brother.
The opening is done really well. It definitely captures the feel of the show. Seeing the intro recreated to fit the style really adds to it as well. I get chills every time. Although after that, we then take control of Daryl as we make it to the truck for a quick getaway. And it's here where we get introduced to the multi-branching pathways that this game offers. When this map screen appears here, you'll need to pick which route you want to go down. The choices are only left and right, but it's cool that there's some choice to where we go. Meaning you're not going to see everything in one run, and I happen to think that's pretty cool. Also, while driving these routes, there are chances to break down. You'll need to stop and do whatever made you stop, whether it be finding more gas, clearing up zombies, pushing cars out the way, or even helping survivors. I do like these, it feels real, and personally I love looking for supplies. Even if the locations can be a little bare or repetitive at times, it's still a fun mechanic to me. Well, eventually we do end up meeting up with Merle, who's been stuck up on a roof just firing at anything that moves. Now, if you're an observant one and you've taken a look at the case and look at the back of the box, it says play as Daryl alongside with his brother Merle in an unforgiven prelude to the TV series. Now, with that stated, it would probably give you some indication that Merle might be a big deal to this game. They've done this thing where they've made it out to be such a big deal that Merle is in the game, but he's just a glorified side character who doesn't really do anything but just give Daryl shit over a walkie-talkie. Seriously, they could have opened this up for some multiplayer action here, but they just did not go through with it. Merle's barely a side character, and it's just really disappointing.
Sonny boy, I can stand here doing nothing a hell of a lot longer than you. I guarantee you that.
Well, anyway, Merle then tags along with us for a bit, and a little bit of the story does happen here, and Daryl letting Merle know that their dad is dead. Now, in this game, and the story bit right here, I find it really interesting is that Daryl and Merle are actually kinda fondly remembering their dad here, and kinda saying, like, in a way, on, you know, how much of a great guy he is, and that is really jarring, especially if you watch the show, where you know that their father is an abusive asshole. Now, obviously, I don't think the showrunners gave a flying shit about this game when it came out, but I just find it really interesting on how quick they retconned that, because considering this game was supposed to be canon to the show, but oh well.
Merle,
Man, I gotta tell you something. Something happened, bro.
I got it. Full-bore, flesh-eating apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah, but we were up at Jess's camp house when the eaters came down on us. We never heard anything about them. They tore us up. Jess and me, we were the only ones to get out.
Where's the old man?
He was up at the camp house, too. He didn't make it, bro.
He's dead? The old man's dead? You let the abominations get him? Did he turn into one? Did you let that happen too?
No, we gave him mercy.
What'd he say? What did he say?
He said, tell Merle I'm proud of him. Merle?
What'd he really say?
Well, with nowhere to turn, Merle then guides us to his clubhouse, because apparently something is very important there that we just have to grab. That being drugs, of course. But it is here where we get that famous crossbow that Daryl always carries along, even if it is 60% into the game. Better late than never. But as soon as we grab it, Merle abandons us, and then we get hit over the head, causing Daryl to get knocked out, losing all of his gear. Once Daryl wakes up, we now have this segment we have to play where we have nothing, scrambling to find a weapon to fend off the zombies. We then run into the guy who then took all of our stuff, but unfortunately for him, the zombies got to him first. So quickly scooping up our stuff and getting the hell out of Dodge, we run into a survivor from earlier. So I was going to bring this up a little bit later, but since we're talking about it here, I'll just talk about it now. Throughout the stages, there are survivors that you can find, and this just happens to be one of them that we ran into earlier. And a lot of them you can recruit with you to come along with you, and some of them even have items for you to have in case you want them. If you are not exploring the stages, you can actually miss a lot of these survivors, so it's really cool that they want you to go out of your way to find it, adding a bit more to the game. Because there would be survivors just scattered around waiting for people to come help them. Like this survivor that we helped earlier with her friend who just up and left us. And now we run right back into her. And it's up to us to help reunite her with her father, which happens to be on our way. We head to the next location and they do meet up, although the dad doesn't look too good, but they're off before things can even be said about it. We then have to fight our way through this cul-de-sac area to make it to an evac site. However, doing that, the helicopter doesn't wait for us and ends up taking off without us, leaving us stranded and have to head up to a military evac site. But of course, it's overrun just like the rest of the world. I actually like the fake out they do here. It did catch me off guard with acting like you're about to get into your inventory, but it's actually just a cutscene. Really well done. This is the last stage and we end up fighting to the helicopter, but it needs time to take off. So here they give you like this assault rifle and you just have to sit there and defend. I actually got a little cocky here and thought I could hold it off a bit more than I could and almost got overwhelmed, but thank God it paid off. But then Merle, out of nowhere, just shows up with a military Hummer with a turret on top of it. Daryl then gets in the turret and we wipe the floor with the remaining zombies. It's pretty mindless, but it's fun. And once that's over, Daryl goes to get onto the helicopter, but Merle pulls him off and sends the chopper away. Daryl is clearly pissed at this decision, but then it's here Merle reveals that the pilot had been bitten and was already halfway to turning.
Shit about you no more. You could have been out of this mess forever.
Lucky for you, I got an eagle eye. It's this one. Didn't you see the bite on that whirlybird pilot? Hell, he was more than halfway turned already.
And with that, the brothers leave, ending the game. Now, in all honesty, this story is nothing to write home about. In fact, it's barely a narrative. I guess it was just neat going back to a simpler time in The Walking Dead's history, you know? It was just really cool to revisit that time again. Back then, as a kid, I loved this story and saw nothing wrong with it. Of course, back then, I just wanted to do anything involved with it, so no matter what they gave us, I was going to be pretty happy with. But today, it's fine. Like I said, nothing to write home about, but if there is one thing I can give this game credit for, is that Michael Rooker and Norman Reedus voices their respective characters, and they don't phone it in here. They actually do a real good job at bringing their characters to life, just like they did in the show. In fact, all the voice acting in this game is actually pretty fine. Every character sold their line believable enough to me, and that's all that I needed. But for the first Walking Dead game based on the show, they unfortunately did drop the ball here. But however, this isn't called zombie games are good, this is called zombie games are cool. And I still do think that this game is pretty cool. Now, this is your typical first-person shooter, which I don't mind, actually. I actually prefer that when it comes to zombie games, but it controls just like you think it would. Y switches weapon, B crouches, A jumps, left trigger aims, right shoots. You get the idea. It's a simple control scheme, but hey, it works. You do get a variety of weapons spanning between guns and melee weapons. So with the guns, you have different kinds of snipers, different kinds of shotguns, different kind of pistols, magnums, assault rifles, the whole 9 yards. You do get Daryl's signature crossbow like 60% through the game, like I stated in the story segment, and I have to say it's not bad. It's one of the guns that are actually silent because it's shooting arrows instead of bullets, and that can be very helpful. But if you're just wanting to be silent, then that's what the melee weapons are for, and you get quite a bit here. You start out with a knife, and throughout the game you can find hammers, lead pipes, machetes, sledgehammers, but I gotta be honest, when I found the machete, it's what I used for the rest of the game. You can just hit them once and then chop their head off. It's super effective, and something I'm only just now figuring out about. Using guns, however, will cause the horde to focus directly on you and will ramp up the difficulty in no time. I will admit, I got cocky here a couple times with the guns and have gotten my shit wrecked for it. But I mean, come on, I want to shoot zombies, can you blame me? But you can't just walk around and pick up whatever you want. You have a personal inventory that can only hold up to 10 spaces. The knife you start out with can't be removed. And once you get the crossbow later in the game, that can't be removed either. So essentially, you only have 8 spaces to move your stuff around, which really limits you, but whatever, it's manageable. The zombies in this game are a bit of a mixed bag, you know. For the most part, they're pretty decent. They've swarmed me several times, and I've died plenty of times to them. But then there are other times where the zombies feel a bit more mindless than they should. Like early on, the game establishes that you can crouch in it to make less noise. And in the beginning, I was doing this to sneak up on the zombies to assassinate them real quick. However, I found it was just as effective to just plain walk up to them without crouching. Crouching isn't really needed, and in fact, when I kept playing it, I couldn't really see a purpose for it other than the fact that I could do it. It's more of one of those illusional things that it does something, you know? Also, bumping things on the ground don't really have an effect either. There have been several times where I've kicked something and it's made noise and I've expected the zombies to look at me, but they never do, so yeah, just little small things like that. But you know, for the most part, the zombies are pretty good. They're pretty well made. The stages, in my opinion, are pretty decent. I always have a good time walking around exploring them. They do start off a bit linear, but as you move forward in the game, they start to open up a bit more and more. There are hidden collectibles around these stages that you can find. They're pretty well hidden. There's these squirrel statues and these developer posters, I think. I'm not really sure what these do in the game, but I think they're just collectible for collectible's sake. So if you want to find them all, I think you'll just only get an achievement out of this. And I really did try to look for some of these. I have footage where I'm just looking around aimlessly, looking for anything, and sometimes I did get lucky and find a squirrel statue or a dev poster, but they really tuck these away, and it makes exploring the stages even more fun. But I have to say, just exploring the Walking Dead universe, to say I'm actually inside the AMC verse, is just cool in and of itself, and I had a little enjoyment just with that fact. There's actually a part later in the game when you're at the cul-de-sac level where you can actually run into Amy and Andrea's parents. And I thought this was really cool because it does tie into the show a little bit more, but just hearing those name drops is really cool and making this game feel more connected to the show. And I like that there is some replayability here. Not with just the routes like I said before, but there are these things called relics. Now, depending on who you save on the survivor or if you beat the game one time, you will unlock these relics that will help you later on in future playthroughs. Like starting the game out with the crossbow and an assault rifle, or starting out with better melee damage, or starting out with better stamina, the whole 9 yards, just depending on what you want to do. It's not much, but, you know, for sake of replayability, you might want that little extra more, so, you know, it's cool that it's here. And, well, that's pretty much it. I mean, I know I forgot to talk about the music, and besides the main theme, which is iconic to this day, it's mostly just atmospheric pieces to the levels, which are decent, but nothing I can remember off the top of my head right now. But that is pretty much all this game has to offer. Now, is this a bad game? No, I don't think so. I think it's fine. Now, if you want a bad Walking Dead game, you go play Walking Dead Destinies. That is an embarrassment of a fucking Walking Dead game. This right here is way better than that, in my opinion. At the time this released, I can see it being a letdown, especially when we got those amazing Telltale games and then they followed it up with this. Yeah, it's not looking too good in that front. But looking back all these years later, especially with that new Walking Dead game we just got, this game right here isn't actually bad at all in my opinion, and it holds a special place in my heart. Well, Danksters, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Zombie Games Are Cool, the series where I look back at my childhood zombie games and review them one by one. Did you guys ever play The Walking Dead Survival Instinct? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your stories about this game, with this game, any glitches, any cool things like that. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll get to you when I get to you. If you go down to the description, you'll see all my socials are down there. Please go follow all of them. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, you might have noticed that I have a Discord and a Patreon. Both those links down there. Please go follow the Patreon. Please go join the Discord. We'd always love to have new Danksters everywhere. And also, while you're down there, can I get you to hit that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications, because I wouldn't want you to miss a single video of mine. And if you're interested at anything that I do on this channel, well, that is the way to stay involved with it. So it would be like 10 seconds of your time, and it'll be greatly appreciated. Alright, Danksters, there's more walkers out there to deal with, so you're not going to get this kind of content anywhere else, and you want to know why? Because that's the Dankers difference.